How's it going, Hunter?
Dude, it's going super great. I'm so excited to be here. How's it going for you?
Same. I'm excited to be here, excited to talk to you. It wasn't that long ago that you and I spoke, but we've got you back on today to talk about something new and exciting because it's something specific.
Yes.
Oftentimes when we do interviews, I find out what the expertise of our guest is, and we talk about that, which we did for you earlier this year, episodes 283 and 284. I'm going to talk about what we spoke about there for the listeners in case they want to go back. But today we've got something specific, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So listeners, if you haven't listened to 283 and 284, where I first interviewed Hunter, we talked about marketing rules that never change. We talked about how to target your ideal clients by using your current ones. We talked about best website creation tools and booking apps, and fighting the effects of inflation through price increases. Bum, bum, bum. The price increase conversation, which we've only had 4,000 times, but we can't have it enough because
Very
I know
true.
it's difficult and important. Okay, so that was episode 283. Episode 284, you and I talked about how to handle price increases a little bit more. We got into it. Making structural changes to your business easier for your clients.
Mm-hmm.
Customer relationship management. That's a corporate term, bum, bum, bum. but very important for all of us because we're in a customer-centric industry.
True.
We spoke about making policies part of the customer experience for the hairstylist benefit and the client's benefit. Most difficult conversation with a client. That's one of my favorite questions to ask. We talked about what you would change about the industry, which I love to ask. And of course, your hair horror story. That was episode 284. So listeners, go back if you missed those and catch up on those. For those of you who don't know Hunter, you're a hairstylist and business educator. And this episode, we're going to focus on a survey that you recently held across the United States with about 500 women who visit hair salons. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to now ask you to delve into this thing, explain what you did, and what can we learn from it?
Let's do it. So basically, and there's a lot of different forward-thinking alternative ways that myself and like other business educators are talking about in the way that we do business, the way we book clients, and the different procedures that we have. And we broke down a lot of that stuff in our previous conversations. And so I highly recommend that the listeners go back and check those out if they haven't. But these we're oftentimes speaking from like our own experiences behind the chair and like what we believe and what our theories are as hairstylists, instead of actually asking the client what they think too. And on the flip side of that, I think also we can maybe take like what one or two of our clients say and we can blow that feedback out of proportion and not take in consideration like the bigger whole of your entire client. So like, for example, like we could have like one or two of your clients will say that your prices are too expensive, but then meanwhile, like the 98 other ones that you have are completely cool with paying the prices that you have. But our brains will naturally focus on those negative feedback, and then it's automatically truth for us. And this survey that I rolled out was super fascinating to me because yes, like they're all things that relate to the ways of business that I suggest or that I teach to. And it's no longer just coming from me, my own experience and my hundreds of students' experiences. Now it's like, okay, we have all of these people who are going to be sharing their honest feedback. And this feedback was crazy to me. Like it was absolutely wild to be able to see all of these results. So we surveyed 500 women specifically within the United States, from all different areas, rural areas, big cities, and suburbs in between. So we have like a really nice pool of people and demographics to pull from. 50% of those women were between the ages of 25 and 44. 20% of them were between the ages of 18 and 24. And then 30% of them were 45 years plus. And so I wanted to make sure that we had like a great range as well too, because we assume like, oh, my clients are quote unquote older. Oh, my clients are quote unquote younger. So that means X, right? So then we end up making assumptions about that. And I asked them just a bunch of different questions about a bunch of different new and exciting different ways that hairstylists are considering doing business. And the results are wild. So I'm really excited to share it with the industry because I think it's fascinating.
Can't wait. I'm so excited. Okay. So I used to, before we get into it, I'm gonna tease it out a little bit because the listeners are like, oh my God, what did they say? But I'm going to make them wait about 30 seconds while I tell the story about pre-COVID times. Do you remember those, Hunter?
Something like that. I mean, it feels like simultaneously it was yesterday and like years and years and years and years and years ago. That's crazy.
That's exactly right. So pre-COVID times, I used to go out with Donovan with my microphone in Los Angeles and do person on the street interviews.
I'm obsessed with that. That is so awesome.
We would spend hours
yes.
out on the street in Santa Monica, in Hollywood, in all different parts of the city, asking whoever would stop and talk to me about their experience in the salons.
Yes.
Now, that was, I would say, more... I mean, comparing it to what you've done, it's entertainment. What you've done is more scientific, right? Because you have a much larger pool of feedback. When I would do that, I might get 10 people over the course of 3 hours to stop and talk to me. Most people looked at me like I was a creep and that I was going to accost them on the street. But some people would stop and talk to me. And I think those are on our YouTube channel. It was always very entertaining and we had fun conversations. But I'm very, very excited to talk about your more scientific discovery of information.
Dude, I'm obsessed that you did that, though. I'm going to have to go look at those. You said it's on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's on the YouTube channel. It's on the podcast going back to like 2018 and 19. It's I'll send you links to it.
Please do.
It's on Instagram, although you have to scroll for 20 minutes probably. But yeah, YouTube would probably be the fastest way to go on there. And I think that we did have kind of the edited versions of those conversations, and very, very interesting. Very interesting.
So much fun. I'm obsessed with that.
Okay, let's get into the more important thing, which is what you did.
So my very first category of things that I wanted to know about was online booking. And if you hear me talk about online booking in our previous conversations on the podcast, you'll hear me talk about using online booking as a pinnacle way that you're doing business. It's not just I feel like a lot of people will say oh yeah, I have online booking, but it's kind of just an add-on to their business. It's not okay, in order for you to book an appointment with me, you have to book online. And for me, as an independent stylist and hundreds of my students who are independent stylists, it's really advantageous for them to use it as in that way. So that way they can reduce a lot of that client communication. They can enforce boundaries, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're not inconveniencing our clients or making our clients do something that they aren't enjoying doing. So I wanted to ask our freaking clients, and specifically people who, by the way, these are people who go to salons. These aren't just random women. These are women specifically who visit salons. So they're not just box dyeing their hair at home. They have experience with going to the salon still, which I think another thing, it's we'll take opinions from our mom or our best friend. And then it's we have to make sure that we're asking the people who actually matter here. So
exactly right. And by the way, I'm going to lend a little credence to that comment because so many of the people that I found on the street didn't go to salons regularly. Right. So I would say half, again, an unscientific, just throwing out a number, kind of felt like about half of the people that I interviewed still looking for a regular hairstylist.
Right.
Now and then they go to the salon every 6 months or every 8 months,
right,
and they'll go to somebody new every time, and So you found, and before we get in, how did you find these people?
Yeah, good question. So I use a software called Polefish. Anybody can go on there, and basically what Polefish does is it pays you can go on there and you can answer these surveys and you can get paid to do so. And you can make these filters to make sure that it's the actual audience that you're trying to speak to. And so it's actually a really accessible, great way about going about it. And we asked for like both single choice or like multiple choice questions, but then also like open-ended questions. And the open-ended questions like were really legit, which showed me that it was like all like legit people like answering it instead of like robots or like something weird. And so I was really impressed when I used it. And I got some really cool feedback and data. So
very good. Very good.
So first I went into online booking because I like wanted to know what the tea was. All right. And so this first answer may sound a little crazy or like contradictory or wild, and it shocked me at first, but trust and believe I'll get there. All right. Okay. So the first question that I asked was, how do you prefer to book your appointment at the salon? All right. I gave them 3 options. I said in person, I said online, or by phone. Okay. So 15% said in person, only 24% said booking online, and 61% said by phone. So I was like, this is crazy. So then my next question following that was why don't you prefer to book online? Like, what is the tea there? And I gave them a couple different options, or maybe it was open-ended. I either if I asked an open-ended question, I like analyzed the data and I like summarized it all. So the 60% of people out of those people who didn't prefer online, 60% of people said that their stylist does not offer online booking, or they're not sure if their stylist offers online booking. It's not necessarily that like they don't prefer to book online. It's that their stylist doesn't offer it, or they're not even aware that it exists.
That's their only option.
Exactly. And then the rest of them said, I'm too scared to mess it up. That was about 17%. And then 10% of them said it's too confusing for them. So I started this actually with 250 women. And then I ran a second survey with a little bit more specific questions. So I got better answers that were more relevant to the conversation, considering that I got that feedback. Yeah. So I ran a second survey, and in that I asked, how would you prefer to book your appointment, assuming your stylist offered both options? Good. So like that way I'm like really cleaning it up with the answers that we're getting. So I asked either by phone or online. Like I gave them 2 options, super simple. 29% said by phone and 71% said online.
Interesting.
Isn't that crazy?
So given the option, people would much rather do it online, which I guess is what I would assume
in today's day and age.
Yes.
And then I still asked them again. I asked that same audience, like the 29% who chose by phone. I said, why don't you prefer to book online? Remember, this is assuming your stylist did not offer it. 54% of them actually said, I'm scared that I'll mess it up. And then only 36% of them said it feels less convenient. And then the rest were just like other miscellaneous answers. And so that shows me, like, if you want online booking to be like a way that you're doing business, and you want to make sure that it's one of the only ways that your clients can do so, like without having to reach out to you, text you, so you can be off on vacation and not have to be on all the time, then making sure that you set up an experience with your online booking that is simple to use, where your clients are confident using it. It's a really beautiful and easy user interface, I think is really important, because then it addresses this objection of, I'm nervous that I'm going to mess it up. And I think it's fascinating that our clients are scared that they're going to mess it up. And for the same reason that we as hairstylists don't trust online booking, they're just as scared for the same reason. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
now it seems to me that we're talking about a learning curve on any particular booking app, right?
Yeah.
So a hairstylist chooses ABC app, and there's a learning curve for the client to learn the ABC app and how to not screw it up. So maybe there's kind of this annoying process when a hairstylist chooses an app of going through it with their client, maybe at the end of an appointment.
Yes.
right?
Absolutely. Yes. Like taking a responsibility for your client's experience and possibly, walking them through and like making sure that they're like, they know how to navigate it. And then also with the way that you set up the services, making sure that it's understandable language with like service descriptions that will allow clients to self-identify themselves into the correct services without like hairstylist jargon, because our clients don't know what a partial foil is or what a bond builder is, right?
Yeah.
So I am actually of the belief that like your client should be able to select like no more than 2 buttons, preferably like 1 button to book the right service with you, because then it's like they have to choose like 5 different things and they don't even know what the hell they're choosing at the end of the day, So it's about, using a user interface. I think that's one of the biggest things when it comes to choosing what booking system to use, like making sure that the online booking interface on the client's end is something that's easy to use, making sure that you actually set up the services in an understandable, client-friendly way. And then, of course, taking responsibility to make sure that you have equipped your client with the knowledge and the confidence to be able to do this on their own moving forward. Yes.
Okay.
So then I also asked, not just like, why aren't you willing to book online? I also asked an open-ended question to those people of, I would be more willing to book online if blank. And so then they kind of filled in the blank. And when I summarize all of these, open-ended answers, it came down to stylist involvement. So 11% said like, if the stylist saw me booking online and like saw what I was booking and made sure that it was cool, then I'd be more likely to do so. 15% said system reliability. And like, yes, like sometimes tech can mess up on us, but we're in 2023 and 99% of the time your system is going to work and do what it says it's going to do, in my opinion, in my experience. 20% said confirmation and notification. So they want to get like a text or an email confirming that like it was booked and you're in there and you're good to go. 22%, which was the most out of this pie that I'm looking at, said ease of use. So they said that they would be more willing to book online if it was an easy process for them. And then there was like other miscellaneous answers for the rest of the pie chart, basically, in the open-ended.
Those are all things that are you're able to accomplish. The common booking app is able to accomplish. Yes.
Exactly. So it's like we have these objections, and maybe it's about, understanding these objections and asking your client what the objection is, and then making sure that maybe they don't understand that like, no, this is going to work. Or maybe they don't know that I'm going to get a notification. I'm going to see what you book and I'm going to make sure it's the right thing, Right. So that way you can actually explain it and address the objection right then and there. So I just thought that was super fascinating, but I'm really excited to get into the other parts of this because they're a little bit more controversial and crazy.
I can't wait.
Okay. So Eric, have you heard about the whole concept of like, have you heard about like the concept of like rethinking or like stopping pre-booking behind the chair?
Yes, I have. I've heard that this is a little bit of it's not a trend, but I've heard it. Maybe you think it's a trend. I've heard some people saying it. Yes.
Yes.
For those listeners who haven't, though, explain why some people think this is a good idea.
So I think that when you go on social media and there's like these buzzy memes and posts and things that just straight up say like, stop pre-booking your clients, right? I think that, there's so many nuances underneath of that. And like, there's so much context that you have to take in consideration. And I also think that every single business owner and every single stylist has their unique circumstances. And I don't think that we can take those types of things for face value. I think that we have to take them with a grain of salt. Yes. But I do think that I think like the valuable nuanced part of something like this could be like, maybe you don't want to continue pre-booking yourself out past 2 months at a time. Or maybe you don't want to be pre-booking your lower maintenance clients who are coming to see you every 3 months because that person doesn't know what's going on in 3 months. You don't know what's going on in 3 months. You may have to change your schedule. They may no-show you and last minute cancel on you because they booked an appointment that they had no idea what was going on in their life then, Yeah. And there's a lot of different layers to it and a lot of different reasons why somebody may want to consider it. I personally rethought the way that I pre-book in my business. I would say that like 80% of my clients actually only book online with me. And like the rest of the 20%, I pre-book within a 2-month period. And it does a lot of actually really great things for me. And I've even seen it actually raise my retention because I'm creating more of like a exclusive experience. I have like a booking day. So on the first day of the month, my next month opens up. And at 8 a.m., all of my appointments for the next month open up. So let's just say that today was January 1st. Right now, on January 1st at 8 a.m., January is already booked out, but then February opens up at that time.
Okay.
So it's my clients share with me, it's like getting like concert tickets, right?
Yeah.
So that urgency and that scarcity works, as we've seen with like Taylor's Eras tour, right?
Yeah.
Like these tickets are on StubHub for like thousands of freaking dollars, you know? And it creates more of that urgency and more like excitement and almost like an experience in your pre-visit and post-visit experience about getting into your chair. And as long as you have like email reminders about that going out and making sure that your clients are staying on top of that and they're in the know about the procedure, I think that it can be an interesting strategy to think about if it makes sense for you. And here's the thing. I am not somebody who's like, every single person should do every single thing that everybody suggests. I'm like, you have to take this into consideration and make it your own and see if there's benefits that you can benefit from or leave it all behind altogether.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And in fact, my barber does the same thing. Now, it's a little bit of a function of the fact that he's bi-coastal. So he's not in Los Angeles always. So when he books a trip to Los Angeles in advance, he sends out an email to all of his clients and it says, I'm going to be in LA for these 3 days. And it's like 2 weeks from when he sends the email.
Right.
And when I get the email, I'm like, ooh. And I click on the email and I book the best day within those 3 days. And more often than not, 99% of the time, there's an available time. And I feel like if I want the best choice of time, I need to go ahead and click on that link before the other clients do.
Right. Exactly. So then it like creates more of like a thing around your experience, and it makes people more willing to like pay attention and want to get back on the books in my experience. And it's so fascinating that that's the same situation for you and your barber. That's cool. So what I asked my client, or what I asked these people that I surveyed was, I asked them, if your hairstylist schedule was flexible, what would you prefer? And I gave them 2 options. I said, book your next appointment before you leave the salon, or book your next appointment when I'm ready and have a better idea of my schedule. And 26% of these people said, book next appointment before I leave the salon. And 74% said, book next appointment when I'm ready and I have a better idea of my schedule. And I don't think that that's necessarily surprising. Like, I think the majority of people would rather be able to book an appointment like whenever they actually know what's going on. But I think that we have been so we've been so taught and so routinely pre-booking our clients and like forcing them into our schedule and then creating this urgency that they have to book before the salon and they have to figure out their schedule in advance. And I'm like, maybe if like rethinking pre-booking would be advantageous for you in your business, if you see the benefits in that, maybe that could also offer an experience to your client that they would be preferring as well too. So I thought that was interesting.
And again, just to repeat that the context being so important, because I know my wife's hairdresser, who works at our salon in Thousand Oaks, she books out months. And so my wife expects that at the end of her service in person, she expects to go ahead and book her next appointment, because otherwise she won't have the flexibility of getting the time that she wants.
Right. Exactly. And so it just depends on the nature of the services that you're doing the majority of the time. It depends on your clients, your book, your lifestyle too, as well too.
Right.
So again, like there's benefits and then there's pros and cons, and there's also ways to tweak it to make it your own too, you know? So I just thought that was interesting. And then the next thing that I talked about was communication with your clients. You know, I'm a big believer in all the techie things, including digital forms. I love me some freaking forms. And I know that a lot of people are nervous about making clients go through and fill out these forms because they believe it's going to be an inconvenient process. And that's a totally valid concern, like 100%.
We talked about those in episode 284. We talked about the policies and the forms.
Yes. So I'm a big firm believer, like if you want to set boundaries, if you want to create more of like a streamlined, very consistent process with your new guest onboarding, that you should have your client go through a digital consultation form before they can get to your online booking, before they can get to your phone number, whatever it may be. So that way you can get all the information that you need and you can skip over all of like the back and forth DM consultation and like the emailing back and forth and like all of that extra stuff. And you can just ask all the questions that you need and then you can tell the person what to book online and then it's done, right?
Yeah.
Like I wish so bad my tattoo artist had this in place, dude, because she's asking me to email her like all these different things. And I'm like, can I just like very easily input all these things into like form fields? Like, please. I don't know if that's just my Gen Z self, but I just really wish that she had this. But anyways, so I understand like the valid concern of like, not everybody's maybe possibly going to want to fill out a digital consultation form. So I asked the people. So I said, are you willing to fill out a digital consultation form before booking your first appointment? So you know, you have an idea of what the price will be and you'll be booked for the correct amount of time for your hairstylist to complete the service. 5% said no and 95% said yes.
Wow.
Isn't that insane?
That's crazy.
And then I will say, you know, I did use this verbiage, right? I said, so that you will have an idea of what the price will be and you'll be booked for the correct amount of time. And this goes back to taking responsibility for if you would like your client to go through a process, make sure that they understand the benefits and why you're having them go through it, right?
Absolutely.
So like if you have like a digital consultation form on your website, maybe you have copy around that sharing with them. This will allow me to share with you what your estimated quote will be and exactly to make sure that you are booked for the amount of time that you need to achieve your goals or something like that.
Absolutely.
And again, this is people of all ages too. I hear a lot of people, especially when I talk about this techie stuff, people are like, oh, well, my clients are older. And I'm like, let's not be ageist here.
Yeah.
Like my dad is 66 years old and he is a software engineer. So like there are plenty of people who are down to do this, especially post-COVID era. I think that we've all been forced to at least learn a little bit of comfortability when it comes to technological processes. And a digital form is pretty straightforward, in my opinion.
Yes.
At least
try it. At least try it with your older clients. Don't remove the benefits. Don't prevent your older clients from getting the benefits of high tech.
Yes. That, you know what? Yes. I think it's like really a shame that we take away that opportunity from them because of our assumptions. There's a book that I read. It's called Digital Customer Service. And it talks about how now that people are becoming more, now that services are, and anything that you have to take care of in your life is basically digitized at this point, and you can do it online, people are getting these little reward chemical releases in their brain, like dopamine releases in their brain when they are accomplishing these things by themselves and learning these things by themselves. And I would assume that is very true for especially older generations who aren't as used to doing these types of things.
Right.
And so you're taking away that opportunity for somebody to at least try if you're just assuming that they're not going to want to do it. So I love that you said at least try. And then again, take responsibility to make sure that it's like an easy process for them.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Okay. So the next thing that I got into with this survey was pricing models. Because I feel like there's been this like big debate of like, oh, hourly is best or a la carte or all-inclusive package pricing, right? And have you heard all of this debate?
Of course.
I've
had guests. Yes, I've had guests who are huge proponents of the hourly. I've had guests who hate the hourly, and we've debated it on both sides.
Right. So the one thing that I did not include in here, so I did hourly pricing, I did all-inclusive package menu, and then I did an a la carte menu. The one thing I didn't include that I wish that I did was like parts and labor. So like I'm seeing a lot of people with like software like that has scales. I'm not trying to like name drop brands just in case. That's like not what I'm supposed to do.
Like Vish.
Yeah, Vish or like Salon Scale or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
A lot of people are using that. And then what they're doing is that they have like a base a la carte price for the service that they're carrying out, but then they'll charge exactly the amount of product that they use per client. I wish that I asked that because I'd be really fascinated to see what clients think about that. But I did not include that. So I asked, when reviewing a hairstylist pricing, what would you prefer? Plus, what do you believe makes the most sense to you? And this was wild to me. And I felt really bad for the people who have this pricing model. So 29% said a la carte, 66% said all-inclusive package menu, and 5% said an hourly pricing menu, which I just think is wild.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I would have guessed a small percentage of people preferring the hourly. I think I would not have guessed that low of a percentage.
Me neither. I was really shocked about that.
Yes. And the reason I would assume a small number, although not that small of a number, is because of the unknown, right? The unknown of, is this going to take 2 hours or is this going to take 8 hours? Is this going to cost me $300 or $1,300?
Right.
And I think that's, that feels risky,
yes.
To a client to have that kind of unknown.
Yeah. I think I don't know if you hang out on TikTok, Eric, but I
don't spend much time on TikTok. I'm too busy for TikTok.
I mean, fair, because once you get into it, you spend a lot of time on it, unfortunately. But there's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of clients and just people on TikTok, talking about their hair salon experiences now, or influencers, right? And this is something that we're up against, is this public perception, and then people speaking about these things. And I think that people are so critical of hairstylist prices nowadays because of it's the pushback of us being a little bit more in control of our pricing now and raising the prices to the things that we quote unquote deserve and all the things. And there's a lot of pushback from the general public that I've seen on social media. Okay. And I think that people are becoming a lot less trusting of hairstylists, or feeling as if that we're just charging whatever the hell we want with no method behind it. And sometimes that is the truth, right? Okay. So I agree with your theory about that. I think that is why, because it is unpredictable. And I think a client could easily have a perception of, or a misconception of, oh, well, this person's just taking a longer time to do my hair so that they get paid more or something like that, right?
Yeah. They don't have any clients at the end of the day, so they're just going to string me into the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So I also asked, here's why clients said that they preferred each model over the others. And again, this was open-ended, and it was actually a little bit difficult to summarize this data because it was all over the place, really. But with a la carte pricing, the 29%, out of the 29% who said a la carte pricing, 32% of those people said they believe that there's more control and flexibility with an a la carte pricing model. Okay. So somebody said, I don't always want a package deal. I like to pick and choose what I want. Okay. And then when it came to all-inclusive package pricing, the 60% of the people who preferred that liked the price transparency. So going back to the transparency, many respondents value the ability to know upfront the cost of the services that they're purchasing, and this helps them avoid unexpected expenses and enables better budgeting.
Right.
And then with hourly pricing, people just said that it sounds more simple and it would be easier to manage and take care of, I guess.
That was the 5%.
Yes, that was of the 5%. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was that. Okay. So I just thought it was really, really interesting. And I think that as we move forward into a much more conscious, socially, digitally connected space online, and we are all more educated with our businesses and getting more education with our businesses and hearing from so many different people with so many different experiences and beliefs, including myself. I'm an educator who I share a lot of alternative things, such as a lot of the things that we cover today. I want to make sure that everybody just knows what our clients want and what the opportunities are for you to take advantage of. And whether or not that makes sense for you, it's totally cool. You have to choose what's best for you and tweak it to make it your own, and trust yourself as the CEO of your own business, I feel like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not sure if I can add anything to that. I think it was great information and you summarized it really well. And I think the listeners can take from that what makes most sense for their business.
Right. And that was the goal.
Pretty awesome.
So
Pretty
thank you
awesome.
so much for allowing me to share it on this platform. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for doing that. And gosh, there's just not, and one of the reasons I went out into the street years ago is because I didn't feel like there was enough information about it. You did it much more scientifically, like I said. So, so hopefully the listeners got something from that. And of course, as always, listeners, you can reach out to Hunter, Hair by Hunty on the gram. Any other ways that you would invite listeners to contact you if they have questions or anything?
Yeah, so Hair by Hunty on the gram, and then I share a lot of good information on my podcast, the Modern Hairstylist Podcast. And then you can also go to hunterdonia.com to see all the things that I'm about and what I offer and all the things. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Hunter.
Thank you.